everyone to part 2 of the exam. So last time, in our last session, we have dealt with part 1, section 1, reading comprehension. Now in this session, we are going to deal with section 2, mastery of language, and part 2, phase of integration. So let's go. So as we have seen in our last session, this is our lesson plan. So we have seen in last session exam layout and part 1 section 1 reading comprehension. Now for this session we are going to see section 2 mastery of language and part 2 phase of integration. Let's start with part 1 section 2 mastery of language. So here section 2 is for 6 points and here are our 3 questions of this part. Now you have just 1 minute to read the questions quickly. Time is up. Now let's read the questions together. Question 1. I supply punctuation and capitalization where necessary. So we have here a sentence without punctuation or capitalization, and you are going to put capital letters and punctuation where necessary. So we have Virginia wrote Orlando in 1928. It was one of her most famous English novels. Question 2. I rewrite the sentences in the passive voice. So here we have 2 sentences. They are written in the active voice. We are going to write them in the passive voice. Sentence 1. Woolf's novels supported the values of feminism in the 1970s. And 2. The University of London built many statues to commemorate Virginia's works. Question number 3. I extract from the text 2 words for each sound. You have the sound A and the sound I. Now let's deal with each task on its own. We start with task 1. So here we have, as I said, I supply punctuation and capitalization where necessary. So you have to use punctuation marks and capital letters if necessary. You have the sentence Virginia wrote Orlando in 1928. It was one of her most famous English novels. You have 1 minute to do this task. Time is up. Let's look at the correct answer. So here we have capital letter in Virginia, capital letter in Orlando, capital letter in it, and capital letter in English. So here we just have to put or use a capital letter in this sentence. We don't have any punctuation marks. So let's see some rules of capitalization. The first is that we place a capital letter at the beginning of the sentences. For example, they studied there 3 years ago. So here we have they with a capital letter. Like in Virginia, at the beginning of the sentence, it is with a capital letter. 2. After a full stop, like in our sentence, it. And here we have an example. I have a pet. It's called Max. 3. In proper nouns, names, countries, and cities. Like, for example, Virginia is a proper noun, so we have to use it with a capital letter. We have also Algeria, Tebsة, Max, etc. 4. Languages and nationalities. Like, for example, Algerian, Tunisian, English. And in our sentence above, we have English novels, which is the language. Thank you for trying. So our task is for 2 points, half a point for each correct answer. Let's move now to task 2. So question number 2 says, I write the sentences in the passive voice. I have sentence 1. Woolf's novels supported the values of feminism in the 1970s. And 2. The University of London built many statues to commemorate Virginia's works. Now please, you have 1 minute to convert the 2 sentences into the passive voice. Thank you for trying. And before we look at the correct answer, let's revise the passive and active voice. So here we have how to form active voice and passive voice with verbs in the past simple tense. For the active voice, we have subject plus verb in the past simple plus object. Now for the passive voice, we are going to switch places of the subject and the object. So in the passive voice we have object plus verb to be in the past simple, which is was or were, plus past participle plus by plus subject. Now let's see the correct answer. So here's the rule of the active and the passive voice. And here's the sentence. So we have Woolf's novels supported the values of feminism in the 1970s. So here Woolf's novels is the subject, supported is the verb, and the values of feminism is the object. Like we said, is that in the passive voice we switch places of the subject and the object. So here we have the values of feminism is the object, and we use verb to be in the past simple, which is were. It refers to the values, which is in the plural form, plus the past participle of supported, supported is regular verb, so the past simple is the same as the past participle. By, and we have Wolf's novels, which is the subject and the rest of the sentence. So in the passive voice we have the values of feminism were supported by Woolf's novels in the 1970s. Well done. So here we have 1 point for the correct answer. So let's carry on with sentence number 2. Here's the rule of the active and the passive voice again. Let's see the sentence. The University of London built many statues to commemorate Virginia's works. So here we are going to identify subject, verb, and object. Here's the subject, the University of London. The verb is built, and the object is many statues. Now, to commemorate Virginia's works is the rest of the sentence. Let's look at the correct answer. Many statues were built by the University of London to commemorate Virginia's works. So here we have many statues is the object, were built is the verb. So here we have the verb is divided into verb to be in the past simple, which is were. It refers to the statues, a plural form of the word. And built is the past participle of the verb built in the past simple, so it is the same in this case. By, and we have the object or the subject, University of London, and the rest of the sentence. So 1 point as well for the correct answer. Thank you for trying. Now let's move to our last task in mastery of language, task or question 3. I extract from the text 2 words for each sound. We have 2 sounds in the table. You are going to find in the text 2 words for each sound. So here's the text. It's going to help you. Now you have 1 minute to find these words. So time is up. Thank you for trying. So here's our question. Now let's read the text to find some words with the sound A, the first sound on your left, and the sound I on your right. So here we have Virginia Woolf was one of the most innovative figures in English and world literature. So here we have the word innovative with the sound A. Next, she was born on 25th of January 1882 in South Kensington, London, England, in a wealthy family blended of 8 siblings. So we have the word 8. Unlike her brothers, unlike is or contains the sound I. She didn't receive any school education but was taught everything about English classic and Victorian literature at home. So here we have the word education with the sound K, A. Next, later in the 1930s. So here we have later, lay, A. Wolf became a well-known novelist, essayist, publisher, and critic. Her father was her support to start writing. So here's the second word, writing, in 1900. But his death broke her down in 1904. Many years later, she published her first novel, The Voyage Out, in 1915, followed by Mrs. Dalloway in 1925, The Lighthouse in 1927, and Orlando in 1928. Her published works were translated, so here we have translated, into more than 50 languages all over the world. At the age, have the word age, A, of 59, Virginia drowned herself in the River Ouse in East Sussex, England, and died on 28th March 1941. In 1970, Virginia became one of the most influential subjects of feminism movements, and her works attracted much attention during that period. Nowadays, she is considered an important icon, so we have the word icon, I, of classic literary works, where her name with A, appeared in many plays, novels, and films. At the University of London, many of statues, so here we have statue A, were constructed, and several buildings were named. The name contains the sound A again, after her, to commemorate her great with the sound A achievements. So here's the text. We have read it and we extracted some of the words in A, and let's say all of the words in I. Well done. So our task is for 2 points. We are going just to extract 4 words, 2 for the sound A and 2 for the sound I, and get half a point for each word. Excellent. Now let's move to part 2, phase of integration. So phase of integration is for 8 points. It is very important. So here you have just 1 minute to read the question and the ID card. Thank you. Let's read now the phase of integration together. Your teacher of English asked you to write a short text about the English writer Agatha Christie to celebrate Writers' Day. Use the ID card below to write a short biography about Agatha Christie. So here we have the ID card. We have first name Agatha, family name Christie, date of birth 15th of September 1890, place of birth Devon, Southwest England, occupation writer of classical detective stories, famous works Peril at End House, 1932, Murder on the Orient Express, 1934, Crooked House, 1949, and Endless Night in 1967. Date of death, 12th of January 1976. Place of death, Oxfordshire, England. Other facts now. Other information. Well known for her collection of 66 detective novels and 14 short stories revolving around the famous characters Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple. Considered to be the best-selling writer of all time. So, now that we have read our phase of integration, you are asked to write a biography about Agatha Christie using the ID card. So here's an example I suggest for you. So we have here a paragraph with introduction, development and conclusion, and of course the title. So let's read it together. Agatha Christie biography. You know that you have to leave a space at the beginning of each paragraph. This space, we call it in English indentation. I read, Agatha Christie was one of the most creative writers in the history of literature. She was born on 15th of September 1890 in Devon, southwest England. She was mostly known for her classical detective stories, including Peril at End House in 1932 and Murder on the Orient Express in 1934. In 1949, she published Crooked House, followed by Endless Night in 1967. She is well known for her collection of 66 detective novels and 14 short stories revolving around the famous characters Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple. Agatha is considered to be the best-selling writer of all time. She died on, you have to add on here, 12th January 1976 in Oxfordshire, England. She left behind a collection of precious and enjoyable books to read. So here's our suggested paragraph, and you can write other paragraphs and change expressions and sentences in this one. Just don't use this one, okay? So thank you for answering and for trying to do the tasks with me. So remember just that this is just an example of a test, and you can do better on the day of your exam. Thanks for watching, and see you next session in sequence 2 inshallah. Bye, take care.
شكرا على المشاهدة. لا تنسوا الاشتراك في القناة، الضغط على الجرس، الإعجاب بالفيديو.